Thank you very much, and thank you for having me talk here today. And it has been, really lovely. I haven't, apart from Joe, I haven't met anyone here, so it's been, really great. Like finding out what you will do. Actually, it is really exciting. I totally agree. This, an eclectic mix of everybody, so it's great. So yes, the talk today, as you know, is pets and how they are our mirrors. So how, what, and why is really what we're going to be covering. And I want to sort of give you some examples, because often, again, that just allows people to get a better take on it, and there will be probably things that you resonate with. There might be insights that you have today. So yeah. So the main thing that really what we're going to be doing today is, delving into their world. So really, I'm going to be taking you through how they sense the world, and how they see it, and how that then obviously becomes the fact that they are mirrors for us. But I'm just going to do a very brief introduction of me. So I'm a people and pet therapist. I am trained not just in animal therapies, but in human therapies as well. And because of that work, because especially of canine flow that I'm trained in, which is all about the heart connection, which I'll go into in a minute, and something I call parts therapy that I do, some of you may know that, where you're working with parts of yourselves. This is where I started to actually gain this understanding more so of the fact that pets are our mirrors, and it's just been coming up more and more. I've been thinking about it because I'm sure, as most of you on here will know, once you start having that thought, if the universe wants you to get more of that evidence, if you like, off it goes. It sends you people in lots of different ways to show you that actually, yes, your line of thinking is actually in alignment, if you like, with what actually is happening. So yes, so let's talk about how they sense the world. So the biggest way that pets sense the world, it's not even just pets, it's animals, is through electromagnetic fields. Now, our heart is the strongest emitting electromagnetic field in our body. As you will probably know from the work that most of you do, of course, we have the energy field, that extends further out than our body. And if you haven't seen it, the Heart Math Institute do a lot of research on this. So this is where we call it the heart-to-heart connection. And what happens is, because pets can sense that, they can pick that up from us, and whatever the heart is emitting, they will pick up. So whatever it's emitting strongest, and you don't have to be conscious of it, but they will pick it up. So this can be, this could be anything, because everything is energy. Okay, and the reason, just going back to the electromagnetic field, the reason this happens is because the heart is 100,000 times stronger electrically and 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. So this is why they can pick this up. Okay, but it can stem from things like beliefs. So beliefs either about ourselves or beliefs even about them. Okay, emotions, because we know that emotion is energy in motion. So that happens quite commonly, that they will pick that up. Even phobias, but also when we have gone through experiences in life, and this is kind of where the parts work comes in, when parts of us have gone through experiences in life that we haven't totally healed, what will happen is, actually, if it's time for us to heal that, or we're ready to heal it, they will sense that, and they will pick it up, and they will act out. So this happens quite commonly. So the main reason this happens, the main reason they are our mirrors, and why that happens, is because they are picking up on our heart, which is the electromagnetic field. Now, as to why, that's a little bit more universal, and obviously I can put my own take on that, but to me, they are part of the collective consciousness. They are our messengers. Okay, so what they are trying to do when they are in our lives in this way is they are trying to show us something that we need to heal within ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some examples, because then you'll understand a little bit more as to kind of how this happens. So the first one, for instance, is beliefs. Often people struggle a little bit with that, especially, but I'll give you an example. But the first one I want to say to you is, and it's a tip to kind of take away with you, is everything a pet does is to feel safe. Okay, but also what we focus on. So if we focus on what we want rather than what we don't want, then that's what they're going to pick up. But often, as human beings, we focus on what we don't want. We don't want them to go and attack that dog. We don't want them to eat the cat's food. And one example I had around me was a lady that exactly that happened to. And I said, okay, talk me through what happens when that situation occurs. And they said to me, well, you know, the dog's bowl of food is there, the cat's was just on the other side. They go towards their bowl and I'm like, come on, do it. Come on. You know, I'm like, okay, already kind of starting to see where this is going to happen. And I said, right, okay, and what happens? And she said, well, they kind of go towards it and then they move away from it. Oh, right, okay. And what happens when they go towards the cat feed? I'm like, oh, give up. I was like, right, so can you see from an emotional point of view, from an energetic point of view, when they're going towards their own bowl, you have such a state of stress and, you know, potentially, depending on how intense it is, a sense of like you're desperate for them to do it. But actually, when they go towards the cat's bowl, your energy is dissipated. You're like, oh, whatever, give up. I said, so they're learning that when they go towards theirs, you're really stressed. But when they go to the cat's bowl, you're totally not. So they're learning in that sense, you know, and it happens, you know, even with groups of, you know, of animals. So it happens in herds, it happens in packs, where, so Rupert Sheldrake, I don't know whether anybody of you will have heard of him. Joe might have heard of him, but Rupert Sheldrake, you can visit him online. So he's done a lot of research, and what he has discovered is that there is something what he calls morphic resonance. In simple terms, I just call it a group energy bond. Okay, and what happens is you create that with your pets. Okay, so if there's a multi-pet household, that can come out in different ways. So what can happen is, say there was 2 dogs, you'll probably have one dog that actually is quite a mirror of one owner, and vice versa, the other dog is a mirror of the other owner. Or it might be that if that particular dog or cat is very close to one of the children in the family, perhaps the son or the daughter, then you'll find that actually they mirror quite a lot of their aspects. Okay, and they act out things that they might have that need healing. Sometimes it can be that the pet, if there's just one pet and a family, there'll be different aspects of those people within the family, within that pet. But often what will happen, and it happens quite commonly, like you will look at a pet and their owner, and you'll see like anxious pet and anxious owner. And I have asked even this to like very left-brained vets, and even though they can't necessarily understand what I do, they go, yeah, totally agree with that. You know, if we have an anxious pet or a stressed out pet, then yeah, totally, the owner is the same. So even they understand that, but they don't necessarily understand where it comes from. And I can see some of you are already smiling. So it's very much, as I say, kind of focusing about, you know, what we do on it. It's thinking about the group energy bond. It's thinking about what we're emitting from our heart. But they're not here to, you know, they're not doing it to spite us. They're not doing it, you know, to be naughty. It's all about looking at, okay, what is my energy doing? So when your pet is doing something, always look at that. What's my energy doing? And check in with yourself. Okay. So I'm going to give you a few examples of this. So I don't particularly drink caffeine. Very occasionally I do. And one time I'd gone round to my friends, we'd had a proper cup of tea. I'd come back, and at the time I was fostering 2 cats for a friend of mine, Trigger and Boise. No idea where she got those names from at all. And they were like hammer tongs at each other, and I was like, what's going on? You know, and they were like, I'm going to get you, not if I get you first. You know, running all over the place, like, you know, trashing the joint, as you would say. And I was just like, what is going on? And I'm like, okay, let me check in with my energy. And I could feel like that, you know, that kind of caffeine buzz going all over my energy. I could feel that I was not necessarily anxious, but I was physically anxious. I wasn't mentally anxious, but I was definitely physically anxious. And they were picking that up, you know, and then it's about, you know, me taking responsibility of that emotion and doing something about it. So, you know, either going out for a walk and trying to discharge that is mainly the way I do it, to be fair, because obviously I was in the house and they were picking it up. Okay, so another example for you in terms of this mirror is protective pets. Okay, overprotective pets. I get that quite commonly. And the one thing I say to people, so if there's anybody in here, you don't have to put your hands up, but if there's anybody in here either that knows somebody with an overprotective pet or has an overprotective pet, first question I say to people is, are you more protective of other people than you are of yourself? And thus far, I've never had anybody say no. Some people have had to think about it a bit, but yes, you know, they've all said, I am, yes. And the reason that I ask them this question, and this goes more into the parts work, is because when you are more overprotective of other people than you are of yourself, it leaves your inner child, which we all have till the day we pass up to the spirit realm, we all have that inner child, and it leaves them feeling vulnerable and unsafe, because we have a protector part of us, but it's protecting other people. So the inner child then feels unsafe. And so then what happens is, again, we go back to that group energy bond. We go back to the fact that everything they do is to feel safe. So if you're feeling unsafe, they will feel unsafe, and they will do anything that they can in order to feel safe. That's what they are designed to do. Their bodies are designed to do it. The dog's nervous system, but any pet's nervous system, but it's often dogs because they have the biggest heart per body mass. So they're exceptional at picking up on us. But I've seen it with horses, and I've seen it with cats as well. So it's not, I don't think, completely related to the size of, obviously, that ratio. But the dog's body knows where it is in time and space. It knows if it's vulnerable, if it's feeling injured in any way. It knows, therefore, if it's not going to be able to fight or flee, and therefore automatically it will deem itself unsafe and do things to actually create more safety. So that might be for a dog, for instance, or even a cat, that they would growl to keep people away. That's allowing them to feel safer, okay? But what it's doing with us, with that group energy bond, is when your inner child is feeling unsafe, it will then protect you. So often it's like barking at other people, or it's keeping people away because your inner child is feeling unsafe. Okay, so that's a really good example, and that's why when I do my work, I don't just work with the pets. I work, if with obviously permission of the owners and the pets, I work with both, because actually it's about healing that within the owner, to then obviously allow that pet to understand, okay, you don't need to do that now because they're protecting their inner child. And it normally goes back to our childhood as to, why that's happened. And it's not judgment, it's just as it is. And we work with that, and that's where kind of the parts therapy comes in. So that's a good example. Another thing that pets do, but more so dogs, I haven't seen many cats do this, to be fair, but, there's always a first time, is one of the things that they do is they will sit on your feet. And when I see that happen, so I can see a few people nodding, and often when they are doing that, again, another question that I tend to ask people is, are you feeling a bit ungrounded at the moment? Are you feeling a bit kind of scattered energy, a bit, anxious? And often the reason they're doing that is because they're trying to ground you. Because if you think about it, your feet are what normally ground you. We normally connect to the earth, the same as them. So that's why it's really important to take, any pet really, but to allow them to have connection with the earth, because they need to ground, they need to release their emotional charge, because I see them like a battery in that sense. And in order to keep that battery at its lowest ebb, it is about them grounding and consistently being able to release the emotions. Okay, so if they do come to sit on your feet, often it's that they are trying to say to you, you need to ground yourself. So again, it's about us just checking into ourselves and just like, do I feel like that? Okay. Other ones, so pets that chase, but it's, to be fair, it's normally dogs. So dogs that chase, like bikes, vehicles, that kind of thing, which is not obviously a natural behavior to chase a car or a bike or whatever. I have certainly found from experience, and I know I'm not the only kind of sort of people in pet therapists that believes that way, is that actually I've seen from the work that I've done that when a dog is chasing the car, as I say, what they have, see them as an emotional battery. What they are trying to do is to connect with that car. Now, we know that's not a great idea, but the reason they're trying to connect with that car is because they will release their charge. They release the emotional charge, and it's about connection. Okay, and I know when I did a consult, I know Spirit came in and kind of gave me that as that little aha, and I was like, oh my goodness, yes, that totally makes sense, and I've asked people about it since, and everyone I've asked, pets chase vehicles and stuff, it's a similar thing. So if you think of it in terms of what the dog's trying to do, is they are trying to gain connection. But the mirror for the owner is that they are normally trying to gain connection as well. And that can happen in a myriad of ways. So first and foremost, it's normally connection with themselves. So they've disconnected from kind of parts of themselves, which we do. It's a common thing that happens, especially our inner child. Okay. Or it can be connection to other people that are like-minded. Okay, so it might be that they've got not many people around them that understand them, especially if they're kind of this way inclined, you know, where they're more spiritual, where they're more light worker, and so they might have family around them that just don't get it, they don't understand it, they're not into it. So they're seeking that connection with like-minded people, but also it can be connection to that higher power. Okay, so that can be, you know, to anything, universal, spirit, God, you know, all the different names for God, and so on. So it can be that in a myriad of ways, or it can be all of them. Okay. Another one is separation anxiety. Excuse me. So separation anxiety, we know, is a really, really common situation. Now, most people class this with dogs, but it also does happen with cats, actually, but they often show it in slightly different ways. They often show it in more kind of destructive behaviours, and I know dogs do, but it's more obvious with dogs. With cats, it can be a lot more subtle in terms of what they do. But often when you have a pet that has separation anxiety, you actually have an owner that is often codependent. And what that normally entails is that they have an element of insecurity in them, which has come about from childhood. This is normally the case where they've had kind of insecure attachment to their primary caregivers. And so again, it's all about kind of the anxiety of being abandoned or being not neglected, but rejected, that kind of thing. And it's mirroring in that sense. Okay. And again, you know, it happens quite commonly. So again, it's about working with that kind of energy. Now, to give you ideas of more kind of physical ways that this works, because they don't just mirror, like I said, you know, beliefs and emotions and that side of things. It can be past experiences. So another example is I had a lady around me who I went to see with her dog, and her dog was attacking dogs in the park. And he was quite a big dog. And I'm just trying to think, I think he went for bigger dogs than him, but he was just attacking. And at the time I felt it was right to say to her, and I wouldn't necessarily normally do this, but again, intuition, tuning into that. And I said to her, have you ever been attacked? And she actually started saying, yes, I have. And obviously with that came a myriad of emotions, as you can imagine. Now I'm trained in EMDR, which is really fantastic for, you know, post-traumatic stress and trauma. So immediately it felt right to obviously work with that and actually reduce the emotions within her so she could actually get that out of her system. And it was really interesting to see that actually when we did that, so anybody that's not familiar with EMDR, it's eye movements. So you generally will work with your fingers, but you can work with other ways. But I worked with my fingers in terms of her following my fingers and actually releasing it through eye movements. And as we were doing that, her dog was getting up and going, you know, because he could feel the energy shifting. He could feel it, and it was fantastic. And she was just like, oh my goodness, that's so incredible. And he was at the point where, you know, she'd already said to me, if he saw another dog that he wanted to get to, you know, she said he's actually broken down a brick wall before to get to this dog. Exactly, yeah, quite a lot of power, and he did have quite a lot of power behind him, to be fair. He was that kind of breed. So he's done that before, and she said he nearly ripped my arm out of its socket. You know, should I've had quite severe injuries from him trying to go after other dogs with me at the other end of the lead. And what she had to take him to the vets actually after our session, not straight away, but during a period of about a week, she had to take him. And she messaged me and said, oh my God, he was amazing. She said, I cannot believe the change in him. She said he, at one point, he did look at another dog and just kind of did that and came back. So that was it. There was no reaction, no response, you know. So it just shows you that through that heart-to-heart connection, he was picking up on that traumatic experience that hadn't been healed. He was showing that to her. He was a messenger for her. He's part of the, you know, collective consciousness. You know, we are all connected. We're not separate. But he was showing that to her. And I've seen it in that sense. I've seen it with physical ailments. So I went to a canine flow retreat. I have got permission to share this in terms of names, but so Elvis was a spaniel and he was there with his mum Wendy, and we were working together. Now, one of the things in canine flow that we do is spirals, and I was doing some spiral work with him on the base of his spine, because as any energy worker here will know, obviously root chakra, all to do with safety and security. So if everything they do is to feel safe, when pets feel unsafe, often their hindquarters gain a lot of kind of tension, lack of flexibility. There could be more rigidity there. Sometimes also there could be particular conditions. And I started working with this area, and she, bless her, burst into tears and said, I don't know why, but I want to cry. And I was like, okay, metaphysically. And there's a lady in here I know who said works with backs, and Amanda said she works with emotional health, so you guys might be sort of onto this already. So lower back to me is all about support network. So to me, if there's grief there, then it's possibly that she doesn't feel that she has a good support network, or she's lost it. And I said to her, okay, do you have lower back pain? And she said, yes, I do. I said, and as I'm doing the spirals, are you finding that's getting less? And she said, yeah, it is a little bit. So of course, then I had to explain to her, okay, well, you've got the group energy bond. They don't just feel with us. Some pets will absorb. Okay, so I'm not saying that as a, you know, we're to blame for everything that they have, nothing like that. They do come in with their own traumas, their own past life issues as well. But by working on him, I was helping her release grief around that. Okay. And then another thing that happened actually with him, he was an amazing teacher for her and for me when I went to that retreat, is we had gone for a group walk all together. And unbeknownst to me, something had happened for her on that walk. And when I went to work with them in the afternoon with some canine flow, she was sat down on the floor. He was on the settee slightly above her, and he wouldn't settle. And I just said to him, okay, I know you're not settling, and I know there's a message in there. Please, will you show me what that's about? And he got down, he went up to mum, and he put his hands on her chest. And I was like, okay, we're getting there, right? There's a bit Sherlock Holmes sometimes with this. And I was like, okay, so there's something to do with you, that the reason he's not settling. So I said to him, okay, fantastic, I'm getting that now. Can you show me a little bit more? Tell me a little bit more so that we can help with this. And he went and laid his head on her ankle. And I said, I'm getting goosebumps even now. And I said to her, okay, is there something wrong with your ankle? Because he's laying on that. And I know that that's him trying to tell us something. And she said, yeah, I hurt it on the walk earlier. And I actually said to her, okay, so think about it. The group energy bond, everything they do is to feel safe. If you are unsafe and cannot flee the flight response, he will deem himself unsafe because he's linked to you. It's the, you know, it's like the pack, you're his pack. So I said to him and to her, would you allow me to do some spirals on your ankle? Because this doesn't just work with pets, it works with them as well, with humans as well. And she said, yeah, that's fine. And I said to him, would you trust me to do that with your mum? I'm not here to hurt her, I'm here to help her. And he, bless him, and I'm swear to goodness, I'm not making this up, he moved his head from the ankle to her knee as to say, I'm willing to trust you, but I'm not far away. And I was like, oh, fantastic, that's fine, that's okay. And I worked with her ankle, and she could feel the changes, she could feel heat coming into it and all the rest of it. And I said, how's that feeling? She said, yeah, fine. And I said, okay, you ready to work now? Are you happy with that? And he went and settled on the settee, and we carried on, you know. So these are various examples, and I share that more so now I've kind of explained how they sense the world, because I want you to just kind of get a feel of what they do and how they do it, you know. And it happens quite a lot with people with other physical ailments. So I had one lady I went to whose dog had like a shoulder issue, and I said, have you got any shoulder issues? And she said, no, not with that one. And I was like, okay. I said, oh, okay, but you've got a shoulder. She said, yeah, I've got a problem with my right shoulder, his is the left, but my chiropractor said it's referred from my left. I'm like, oh, okay. So they can mirror, you know. And then I suppose my job in a sense is sometimes to look at, okay, shoulders, we know are about burdens. What is it that the owner might be taking on? It could be that they're being very overly responsible for other people. Again, that can happen. That can be a trait for codependency, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a trait just for that. Obviously, somebody can just be over responsible in its own regard. And also, you know, past lives as well. You know, there has been issues from past lives, because when you've experienced a past life with your pet, if something's happened during that past life, what can happen is that they come to you in this life to heal that karma, to heal those wounds, both you and them. And I've been having it recently. I've been communicating with animals in spirit, and that's coming up. So I have a feeling that's coming in gradually, because I love it. And there is a fantastic book on that called Madeline Walker, Pets and Their Past Lives and How They Come to Heal Us. Okay, and it was the first book I ever read, and literally just like zoomed through it. It was just incredible. And I have had pets give me past lives in communications several times before that, and there's so much I could share, but what I want you to take on board today, so just kind of summing up, because I know we're coming up to time now, is really thinking about, awareness is empowerment. So if something is happening with your pet, please, I don't think you would anybody here anyway, but please don't think they're doing it because they're naughty, because they're feeling spiteful, because you came home late, so they're doing it just to be annoying, and all that kind of thing. Everything they do is for a reason. Everything they do is to feel safe, number one. The one thing they want to do is keep the energy moving around. So what comes in, they want it to go out. So if your dog is barking a lot, then it's because they've got too much in that emotional battery. They need help to actually reduce that. Okay. And then tune into yourself, like, right, something's happening with them. Where could that be a mirror for me? Okay, because I've had it with one of the foster cats that I'd taken on the day before. Let's just say a very toxic relationship or friendship had ended, and it triggered me into the belief that I was unlovable, and it was the intensity of it emotionally. It was like I wanted to blow 4 walls out of my house. It was that bad. I got very claustrophobic when I went out to a restaurant or anything like that, and I came home and I was like, right, I'm going to have to deal with this, because I can't have those kind of slight panic attacks when I'm in a situation, because it was nothing to do with that belief at all. I was just in the restaurant, but I couldn't wait to get out into the fresh air. So, and I'd only had these cats a day before that, and one of them was fine, got out of his carrier, walking around the flat like, yeah, okay, we're here now, cool. And that was Boise. Trigger had gone behind the settee and hadn't come out, didn't want to come out, came out for a little bit of food, a little bit of water, but that was it. And I didn't know this was happening at that time. I didn't know that there was this mirror, but I basically came home from that restaurant, was like, right, did parts work on myself like I do, rolled out the belief, and to do that I sit on the floor and I basically do the energy technique on myself, and as I was doing it, I could feel fur against me. So I carried on doing what I was doing, opened my eyes, and it was Trigger. And I swear to this day that he was mirroring that belief, because that's what was absolutely coming out from my heart center. I'm unlovable, I'm unlovable. And he went behind the settee to kind of show me that. Now, when I released that, he came out, he never went behind that settee again. And I have seen it since. As well, of things that people believe about themselves, the limiting beliefs that we have coming up in that sense. So I hope that's given you quite an insight as to, how they sense the world, what's going on, why they are our messengers, and really, what you can do about that, how you can help yourselves with this. So observation, as I say, is really key. Focusing on, okay, how it, what's my energy doing? Why might they be doing this? So I will throw it back to Debs, and if anybody has got any questions, I know